Hey everybody, I'm Stephen Tobias. I'm Cloud Architect here at Red Hat. Just want to give you a brief overview about who we are before we kind of dive into the main material and what we do here at Red Hat. So this window out of the way, actually. So Red Hat is a part of the Insight Investments family of brands. We're focused around advanced IT consulting services and solutions and integration professional services. The other brands that we have are Insight Financial Services that does a lot of financing and leasing, and Second Gear, which does a lot of equipment buybacks and reselling into K through 12 and reselling of refurbished equipment. Red Hat has, we're a national company. We've got locations all over the country. We've got about 11 locations. As far as like the portfolio that we have, we've got about 1 billion assets under management, right? $1 billion worth of assets under lease through Insight. And we have a very large, I forget the exact square footage, but tech center in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we can, kind of receive assets, image them, and send them out to our customers. And yeah. So today, the Red Hat practices are kind of shown up on screen here. Anything from traditional data center to, like I mentioned with the warehouse, we can do end user compute, traditional kind of like laptop imaging, shipping, things like that, device lifecycle management. But my practice is kind of based around these lower three right here. DevOps and cloud, so anything, containerization, cloud native development, automation, and that includes what we're talking about today with Ansible. And we kind of help enable teams, from development and app development all the way through to security and AI and analytics are getting really popular in the space too. It's just another little kind of deeper dive about what we do. Us in kind of cloud professional services. My team definitely helps out with a lot of the Ansible projects through what we call jump starts. Or the same goes for the cloud space, where we'll kind of identify an area, like in this case, setting up NetApp, and kind of do a targeted engagement around, how can we get you running really quickly with Ansible and NetApp. So if you're interested in that, we're happy to follow up with you and kind of dive deeper into that after the webinar. And just a reminder, this is part one of a part two series, so be sure to join in on the 22nd for the next part of the series. With that, I will pass it over to George and Jackie.
Thanks, Stephen. Let me just get my share set up here. And everyone see my screen okay?
Looks good.
Great. So hello, my name is George James, and I'm a Global Partner Solutions Architect at Red Hat. Before this, I was a network engineer at a large financial services company where I worked on deploying and maintaining networks across the US. Today, I'm going to be giving an overview of the Red Hat Ansible automation platform. So the Red Hat portfolio is divided into 3 pillars: hybrid cloud infrastructure, cloud native development, and our focus today, management and automation. So how to easily and seamlessly manage and automate across hybrid environments. Automation happens when one person meets a problem they never want to solve again. So this is one of our cornerstone statements around Ansible. And to illustrate it, I like to tell the story of Scott, the network engineer. And Scott's a real person. I worked with him for many years. And he was able to solve every major issue that came our way. But now that he's solved that issue for the one server, the one network, how do we duplicate that knowledge so Scott can spend his time on more important projects? So we use automation to replicate that success. And before we get into Ansible itself, let's talk about automation in general. And I just want to touch upon a few of these points. Why do we automate? Well, when many think of automation, they think of speed of execution. We can hit those 1,000 devices quickly and with minimal engineer time. But there are many other benefits. So we have standardization and compliance. I often say standardization begets automation and automation begets standardization. How many times have we seen a snowflake environment that is very difficult to troubleshoot? So take networking, for example. Standardized configs make it much easier to troubleshoot. Level 1, 2, and 3 support will know exactly what they're looking at. Automation can also make showing compliance easier when you treat your infrastructure as code. So I once gave an Ansible webinar similar to this one, where someone couldn't attend because they were, in quotes, busy patching servers. So automation would have allowed him time to innovate. When your people are not putting out fires all day, spending time patching, etc., they can spend time developing ways to improve your organization. Reduction in errors. So even Scott can fat finger a change at 2 a.m. Automation helps prevent that. Reduction in costs. We often think of reduction in terms of headcount, but that isn't what we are saying. We are saying increase the value of what your people are doing today. Automate the mundane tasks so they can provide better value to your organization. And finally, decrease security vulnerabilities. It's nice that we can use automation to make changes, but what if we can use automation to scan our environments and react to problems and make changes as needed? So now that we know why we should automate, why should we use Ansible? Put simply, the Red Hat Ansible automation platform allows you to easily and seamlessly manage and automate across hybrid environments. So to accomplish this, Ansible has 3 core concepts. Simple, which means accessible. So I was a network engineer for many years, and like many network engineers, I am not a developer. And when I originally looked at automation, I knew I needed something that was accessible to anyone on my team. Since Ansible is human readable, anyone that understands the technology that they're automating should not have any issues learning how to use Ansible to accomplish what they need to do. This means that no special coding skills are required. But simple doesn't mean it isn't powerful. So underneath that human readable format, we have Python for Unix environments, we have PowerShell for automating Windows, and we have agentless. So Ansible does not install any additional software on the systems it automates. This reduces vulnerabilities and lets you begin automating today against your existing environment. So I wanted to show just how simple yet powerful Ansible can be. And this is a very simple Ansible playbook that has one task. And as you probably guessed, this playbook will update all the packages on all my RHEL hosts. So in just a few simple lines, I'm able to make sure all my servers are up to date. So Ansible sounds great, but why do I need an entire automation platform? So even if your whole organization is automating, the problem can be that they're not working together. So great, we're automating, but what if that is happening in silos and it's not efficient? I'll be biased here, but let's say your network team can provision a new VLAN or open a firewall port from a ServiceNow request in 30 minutes. So that's great. However, the server team takes 3 days to provision a VM. So instead of pointing fingers, let's use the benefits of the Ansible automation platform to provision the server as well. In the next few slides, we'll take a look at how Ansible accomplishes this. So Ansible is cross-platform. It is not specific to one vendor or even class of products. Human readable, and I mentioned this already, but I like to say it's manager readable. If I'm writing a playbook and my manager comes and looks over my shoulder, they can easily understand what it does without any special knowledge of Ansible. It's a perfect description. Since Ansible describes a desired state, it becomes the documentation for your infrastructure. Version controlled. We recommend using a version control system such as Git or Bitbucket to track all the changes to your Ansible playbooks. This is an entire conversation on its own and usually part of a digital transformation for an organization. Dynamic inventories. Ansible can use an outside source of truth, such as a database or a cloud environment, to dynamically update its inventories. And finally, orchestration. In the next slide, we'll take a look at how Ansible doesn't just automate against these systems separately. So Ansible automation platform goes beyond the standard configuration management offered by other tools and gives IT organizations the ability to automate the deployment and management of its entire IT footprint. For instance, we can use ServiceNow to kick off a job at Ansible Tower that will go out and retrieve information from your IP administration tool, use that to provision a VM, upgrade its OS, install a service, open a firewall, and then update and close the ticket. You can go to Ansible.com and see the thousands of modules from hundreds of vendors we can automate. As I mentioned, Ansible is agentless, so its architecture provides enablement for a wide variety of platforms that make it easy for them to be automated. So here are just a few of the systems we can automate against. Pause on this for a second before we go into the next slide. So let's take a look at the automation platform and what it offers. And I know this is a bit of an eye chart, but if you look at the center of the slide, you will see Ansible Engine. It's the core of Ansible. With one command in Linux, you can go download this today and start automating. In fact, this is how I started. I installed Ansible in a VM, spun up a lab with some network gear, and was running Ansible playbooks with very little work. Above that, we have Ansible Tower. It's the orchestration tool for Ansible. To the right, we have cloud.redhat.com. This is where you access the Automation Hub, Analytics, and the Services Catalog. We'll take a closer look at those in a minute. Here in the next slide, actually. So as I said, Tower is the orchestration tool for Ansible. It's the web interface that takes the power of Ansible and gives it to anyone. The Ansible consumers are not required to know how to write a playbook in order to get the benefits of Ansible. Because of its role-based access control, anyone outside of your IT organization can be given rights to run a playbook. For example, HR can run a playbook to create accounts for a new hire, or your NOC can run powerful reconnaissance playbooks without having to give them admin rights to critical systems. Job scheduling allows unintended playbooks to run without intervention. So Scott can make a network change with an Ansible playbook, have that run at 2 a.m., and have a report in his inbox in the morning to make sure everything worked without having him to stay up all night. So powerful workflows allow you to configure a sequence of disparate jobs into one managed unit. Surveys allow you to query the user for data without having to have prior knowledge of Ansible or the systems you are automating. So you can create a self-survey for a new system and just ask the user a few questions and then have Ansible go on the back end and create that system for you. Tower also includes a powerful RESTful API for integration with other tools. So next, let's talk about collections. The Ansible community is great. Anybody, it's open source, so anybody can contribute. And, going out and grabbing in open source tools is how I learned. But you don't always know if that content is accurate or even up to date or even supported. Collections help solve that. They allow our software partners, such as NetApp, to work with Red Hat to certify their Ansible modules and provide example playbooks that are supported by both companies. So Ansible is now moving to decouple the modules from the core Ansible engine. So when you go run, yum install Ansible or pip install Ansible, today you'll get all the modules that you may need to configure your systems. We're removing those modules from that core Ansible engine, and this will allow partners to, and the community to build, test, and publish content at any time without the wait for it to be included in an actual Ansible release. So if a bug is found in a module, a fix can be deployed in days instead of weeks or months. If you are not an Ansible automation platform subscriber, Ansible Galaxy is the de facto place for community content, while Automation Hub is the place for certified content. The Automation Services Catalog is designed to be a familiar experience, providing an easy and intuitive user interface for ordering products. So the idea is that those using the Automation Services Catalog may not even know that they are using Ansible. For example, a product could be a business function like ordering a new OpenShift project or onboarding a user to a new platform. So in order to automate across your org, you're going to need data. Automation Analytics gives you the data you will need to make informed decisions. The information is collected in the cloud by Red Hat but is only available to you. Analytics allows a customer to see Ansible consumption across their entire enterprise. So if one department starts producing Ansible job templates and shares them across the company, that usage data can be aggregated and presented in a visual format to show trends over time. What we saw with several large customers was that they wanted to be able to measure success, and they were starting to aggregate this data manually anyway. So we want to make this process more turnkey and easy for all customers to give them the ability to measure their success. All right. So at the end of the day, any organization has to justify the cost of a new product. And so we like to show how Ansible can pay for itself in a short time. So as you can see, Ansible can provide considerable savings for your organization. And there's a link here to the actual IDC report. I can provide that later if you need it as well. And this slide shows some more data on how the Ansible automation platform can save your organization time and money. All right, and with that, I will hand over to NetApp to speak more specifically about their Ansible innovation.
George, just quickly before we move on, I did have a question come through.
Sure.
I use Ansible versus Puppet or Chef or Fugue. F-U-G-U-E.
I'm not familiar with the last one. I'm sorry, what was the question? Can you use it?
Why use Ansible versus Puppet or Chef?
So I think that is best illustrated back here on this one. I think Ansible is going to be much easier for your admins to learn than Puppet or Chef. We also provide an agentless architecture that's doesn't require you to install any new programs onto your end devices to control them. And also, with NetApp, we have one of the largest selection of modules, of supported modules through NetApp. So if you're a storage engineer, you're going to get the best support from NetApp through Ansible automation. I hope that helps clarify.
Yeah, perfect. That was all I had.
Thank you. Whoops, it was this one. I was on the wrong slide. Jackie?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Thank you, George. I just want to add on that Ansible, definitely, as you will see now through the next few slides over the next few minutes, NetApp is definitely committed to Ansible. That's what we see as the leading automation platform. So that means expertise in the field. That means resources beyond the tool is potentially arguably better by many. It's what the community out there, what we see customers have chosen. It's raising above the others in terms of adoption, and definitely NetApp is aligned with that. So hi, everyone, and thank you for spending some of your precious time with us today. My name is Jackie Ben-Bassat. I'm the technical manager at NetApp within our Pathways organization. That means working with our largest global system integrator partners, mostly in the capacity of field engagement, enabling them and bringing NetApp technologies into solutions and integration with technologies. My personal kind of involvement is in the context, of course, of Red Hat, as well as IBM technologies and their portfolios. So as you heard already from Stephen, in about a month, there will be a deeper dive technical session with David Blackwell, our automation and Ansible subject matter expert and technical marketing engineer. In the next few slides, what I will cover is really at a high-level introduction to NetApp with Ansible automation platform, a quick overview, and some examples, conceptually at least, to articulate, to share with you what we've seen customers are doing out there with NetApp technology and Ansible. And you will see that it's beyond storage automation itself. how storage automation is critical to enable bigger automation workflows that customers are seeking, and a lot of companies are now transforming to introducing way more automation. So in a nutshell, really, it's very easy to start with NetApp and Ansible. We have more than 150 modules already published. Those modules work with our portfolio, specifically in the context of ONTAP. If some of you are familiar with our ONTAP operating system, it doesn't matter if it's the physical appliance that runs ONTAP or software defined in some of the cloud instances, the hyperscalers, the same modules will work against the same ONTAP technology. We have a lot of resources available to start with. And if you couple that with Red Hat expertise, then really there's no reason. If any of you here thinking, I want to automate, I believe it's a need, there's an opportunity, but I don't know how to start. Well, obviously Red Hat can lead you through that in our collaboration and resources, our collaboration with Red Hat, as well as the resources that we have available, should really make it an easy start for all of you. In addition to easy start with NetApp, we have a lot of experience, obviously. NetApp identified the opportunity and the potential of Ansible fairly early, and then the partnership with Red Hat helped us accelerate things. We have a lot of customers using that. Many of them are heavily engaged in our active community. They're suggesting modules and playbooks and sharing information, and it's really kind of helping other customers to learn from all that community experience. We have the majority of our large customers or global accounts using Ansible with NetApp technology, and just add to the experience that we have and what we can bring to other customers to benefit from. George mentioned certified Ansible modules. This is actually very, very important. A big portion of that is produced by NetApp, and it's not storage specific. It's all the certified modules currently. A significant portion of that, I believe about a third, is NetApp certified modules. And that indeed means that it was validated. Somebody looked at that beyond an experience or creative person thinking, oh, that module will be useful. Actually, engineers from Red Hat as well as NetApp validated that and can support and can stand behind that. So it's something that you can have the confidence to take to your environment. So that's kind of a little bit easy to start, a good experience. And we're also internally using Ansible a lot with our IT engineering. It's part of the ServiceNow catalog that we've kind of integrated Ansible automation into that. We recommend that to our customers. So you can hear that, and you will hear that from in the next month as well with more specific examples. And we actually even integrate playbooks into our Active IQ, which is part of our support engine, to help remediate certain issues. As an example, like a shelf firmware upgrade, we can actually trigger that through our support Active IQ platform. So we're really kind of all in when it comes to Ansible. And just to make sure you all understand, the partnership between Red Hat and NetApp is beyond Ansible. It's across a broader set of products within our portfolios. We have executive alignment and sponsorship of a lot of the project. We're working on developing joint solutions. Another important platform that we've collaborated a lot around, and we see a lot of momentum, is in the context of Kubernetes or OpenShift more specifically, and the integration there and the value that we can bring there. I believe Red Hat has capabilities around that as well in the DevOps context. So I consider NetApp technology there as well. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, a quick introduction. George, if you're okay, moving to the next slide, please. So this is a little bit stats of what we've seen there. I'll start with the center, ask you to focus on that, the 100% of the requirements. The current set of what we've published, what NetApp produced for partners and customers to consume, we hear from the majority of the customers that it covers 100% of what they need. So of course, there are always corner cases and additional ideas and needs, but the majority of the requirements are met with what's already available and published. Top left side is indication of how much of the activities of the tasks we've covered with what we've already published and available there in the context of ONTAP. And again, I want to mention, it's not just the physical appliances, the AFF and the FAS, it's also CVO and ONTAP available as soon as a software-defined storage options in either edge implementation, remote offices, or hyperscalers. So you see day zero, it's obviously the initial setup, setting up the equipment. It's not possible to cover 100%, but as you go through the day one with setting up the environment and getting into deeper configuration, start provisioning volumes and storage virtual machines to customers and to applications, you see that more and more can be automated. And indeed, that's kind of what we believe the coverage is at the moment. On the right top side is our different operating system flavor, the Element OS, part of our HCI platform and solid fire storage. And you see there a little bit behind about on day one, but when it comes to beyond that, it's also a significant coverage. In terms of time saving, and we will see, there's way more value than just saving times, and maybe not all of you care about doing the same task many times over and over again. Maybe there are other aspects that calls for automation with Ansible. So we'll touch upon those shortly. But the bottom portion of this slide talks about time saving, particularly in the context of large customers. And you will hear us in the next session talking more specifically about what we've heard. But we have, this is what we call customer one, customer two, kind of internally at NetApp. Large group of engineers from our IT and product development before using automation with Ansible and after. You see 3 days get reduced to 15 minutes to provision an environment. And in this context, those teams provision hundreds, and in some cases crossing the 1,000 storage instances that they need in a month period of time, because they constantly need a new environment to develop, to connect to the application, to store their data, and then they reset that environment and they need it again. That's very typical. A lot of customers, when they have development needs, are in this situation. So they've reduced from 3 days and 2 days to 15 and 10 minutes respectively. That's a significant time saving, 96 times, or as we like to point, in the thousands of percentages. Now, as we survey customers, large customers in similar environments, we hear of at least 50% time saving. 50 times savings as a minimum that we hear thanks to that automation. So obviously significant time saving, but we'll see their additional value. George, please, the next slide. So use cases a little bit. I'll let you kind of read through if you want. And in the next slide, we'll have some specific examples. But it's important to understand storage automation is required in additional workflow. Onboarding users, setting up applications that need data, providing the end-to-end service that we will see starting from a ServiceNow like platforms that provide that service catalog to the end user. It's compliance, auditing, making sure that the configuration moving forward that are consistent. It doesn't matter who is the storage admin or the infrastructure admin or the end user that's select to perform the task. It will always be deployed, performed, configured to the specs, so we can meet the standard that was established, that it could pass the audit, that it will meet the compliance requirements. That is very, very important and play a big part when it comes to automation. Certainly for some customers more than others, but it's valuable. We all, probably the majority of us on the call, being technical, know that, and George, you indicated that as well. We all make mistakes and we think that's the way to do it, but maybe at 2 a.m. in the morning, it's not exactly something we remembered and we did it a little bit different. And then the next morning when the users show up to work, it's not working the way we planned. Well, automation helps, of course, with that, giving us that consistency, and then it's reliable, and then the business flows much faster. So standard, but also taking it beyond. You want to allow the infrastructure to react, to evolve to the end user, to streamline that, to allow the business to accelerate time to market with product development or anything, just to be more productive and effective when it comes to time. So integration with things like infrastructure as a code that a lot of customers are adopting now. And of course, I mentioned integration within specific tools that are unique to NetApp and in our portfolio. So with OnCommand, Unified Manager and ActiveIQ, there are certain things that we do that are Ansible playbook aware that we can get into the details at some point as a follow-up. Now, it's also important to understand that we have REST APIs capabilities, and we can augment a lot of things that potentially there's a need to do that. Beyond automation of the infrastructure, maybe there are certain things that we want to expose and extend into certain application workflows, maybe things within the CI/CD or AI machine learning type workflows. So we can take some of the storage, advanced data management functions, like taking point-in-time backup, data replication, cloning, etc., and extend that beyond. So if you look at that from a NetApp perspective, yes, automation and a lot of resources are there in place, but we can further extend that with APIs into applications that in certain cases, Ansible automation might not be able to reach that far and into the application workflow specifically. Next slide, George, please. So here are three examples that we can kind of provide just to give you indication of what we've seen some customers are doing. The first one is Use Network. It's a public reference available on our public website. What's interesting in terms of with this account is how they started. And this is back to it's easy to start with NetApp. They felt that it's a bit overwhelming. What's the starting point? How do we get automation into our environment? It felt too complex, overwhelming, but we helped them. We figured out exactly what they're after, and they realized that it's not that difficult. And as they started small, but they very quickly got the appetite to increase the environment, introduce more automation, and it's all with Red Hat Ansible automation platform. What they end up delivering is, as you can see there, kind of mini clouds, a complete environment for their requester, for the developers. Everything is automated. A click of a button, and you get that complete environment end to end. Not just storage, but of course, storage is an important component of that. Cuts them their development cycle significantly from weeks to hours, and that's kind of the provisioning. I want to indicate in this case that it's the integration between NetApp technologies and Red Hat technologies is beyond the Ansible automation. It's also here with this customer, persistent storage for their OpenShift platform with NetApp Trident. I'm assuming some of you are familiar with that, but if not, we can follow up on that, how we provide persistent storage in OpenShift platform. So that's one example. How do you kind of start? It's a little bit challenging, but then they realize that they can do more and got the appetite to really scale. The second example is a financial company that needed to cover the storage as part of their end-to-end security audit. They used to do that manually, and they needed to, first of all, turn that into something more efficient in terms of time and accuracy, but also they did not want people to be involved, obviously, in auditing. That's kind of important. And they didn't want scripts that they won't be able to track changes. So they realized that Ansible could be the answer to that. They've automated end-to-end the audit needs, and then ending up meeting the expectations and the requirements for the audit, but also saving a lot of time in the process moving forward. And that time is obviously not that the individuals that were involved got the free time or suddenly we don't need so many people. It's now we can do things that are more important for our company and take our knowledge when it comes to storage or other infrastructure component and now help automate those workflows so the business will get faster, more value from us and our infrastructure services, rather than it takes longer because we're busy manually doing tasks that can be automated. So it's a shift that we see with customers that now diverting their skills and time to give their customers, their internal, mostly employees, more value, help them accelerate certain processes, get to business insights faster, time to market with certain applications faster. All that thanks to automation and the time that they save from doing those tasks that should be automated. So a lot of strong adoption happening all over right now. The third case is, it's not just within NetApp. In this case, I will talk specifically about what we do at NetApp in an initiative of an ecosystem that our IT introduced about 1.5 years ago. I think they started, it evolved. They've been working on that for a while. A lot of customers are kind of recognizing they need to introduce automation, but they don't know how to start. They all take the approach of crawl, walk, run. I think NetApp is kind of towards running fast even, but it's not the first iteration. We start on the left with ServiceNow to provide that self-service catalog, and it's for the entire company. If I am, as an end user, have a problem with my laptop and I need IT support, I'm going to ServiceNow. If I want to order equipment, maybe a new phone, I go to ServiceNow. That's true for our engineers and IT when they need certain equipment or certain development environment, they go to ServiceNow. So that's the service catalog when you have kind of a list of options to choose from. When you go there, you basically, from the menu, select whatever it is that you want to order or need to configure. And then there's the configuration, the parameter form with the spec. In terms of storage, and I'll get to that in a second, it could be what manually a storage admin will do, how much capacity, what's the mount point of a volume, etc. But that's what the ServiceNow provide. And then it integrates with Ansible automation platform to then trigger all those playbooks with all those modules to go and perform whatever the task is. So that's kind of the flow end to end. And you see on the right side, we have storage automation. We have storage automation that is part of a more complex IT workflows. We help our developers with their workflow to provision a certain environment. And we extend that, as I mentioned before, into their CI/CD environment with some API integration as well. HR, end user support, etc. A lot of these cases all start with that ServiceNow. Very, very common kind of structure topology here and how it flows. So specifically, NetApp IT and engineering team, I mentioned earlier, we have hundreds of storage instances that needs to be provisioned on a monthly basis. It sometimes indeed crosses the 1,000 instances per month. So of course you want to automate that. For those of you who go back in time and trying to give a QA engineer a test environment, and 5 seconds after you build it, and it took you 4 or 5 or 6 hours to build a test environment, and 5 minutes after they need it again, because to break it, it's very easy. The code doesn't work, we need it again, and we mess it up, and we need a clean environment, go back in time. Well, somebody had to work 4, 5, 6 hours, maybe a day, maybe 3 days to set it up, and then 5 minutes later they break it again. Well, that's all gone now thanks to automation. I'm referring to my earlier career, go back many years ago. But there's room always for improvement, and automation comes and fixes that. So we have dozens of engineers per day developing code and need, whether it's in the cloud or on-prem, it doesn't matter, the same modules will work. So they go to ServiceNow, they pull the configuration that the form of that they need, and it will show them, okay, how much capacity, what type of protocol, where's your environment? Is it in AWS? Is it in Azure? Is it on-prem? What exactly do you need in terms of protocol? So is it, let's say, NFS? And how much capacity? And do you need a certain mount point to call it? Is there a certain standard? Is it need to be linked to a particular application? What is the underlying server that you want to choose to work with if that's the need? And all that will be information that the requester, the end user, will populate in the form within ServiceNow. That will be packaged, passed on through Ansible automation to the storage to be configured through the playbook. And then the requester probably going to get a cup of coffee, come back after 10 minutes or 15 minutes. We've seen that that's kind of the mark, the number that we've indicated from the previous couple slides. And the environment is ready. They have a full environment, a cloud-like, similar to what Use Network did, but NetApp uses that a lot. And this Cloud One ecosystem that has the ServiceNow, the Red Hat automation platform, and our storage is a reference that we can share with you. There's information, there are blogs, there are demos published out there. So very, very common. That's kind of the third piece in terms of examples. George, please, next slide. I think that's my last one. Yeah. So a little bit resources. On the right side, just screenshots. Indeed, George indicated that the certified modules, so we definitely have them published, as you kind of can see from the screenshot. And of course, Galaxy, which is more of a community-driven content, we're published there as well. The best place to start finding resources about NetApp and Ansible is what we call the pub or NetApp IO. You will find a lot of information, a lot of the blogs, our subject matter expert, and information that we share and also published. And then we have the Slack channel where we have, again, a very active community. We also provide support. I mean, those modules from NetApp, they don't cost money. We don't charge for that. But if there's a need for support or help or clarification, we use Slack for that purpose. There's a link here, so feel free to take screenshots, or we can send it, and it's being recorded, of course, as well. So you'll be able to follow up and look at those certified modules from that link and what we've published in Galaxy as well. So that's pretty much it from me on that quick introduction to NetApp with Ansible. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take. Thank you, everyone.
Yvette, do we have any other questions that came through the chat? And just a reminder to anybody else, we have a couple last minutes, so please insert any questions that you may have.
Yeah, I think you already answered it, but one of the questions were, where can I find blogs for NetApp Ansible automation?
Yeah, so the blogs will be in the same place as the top link, the NetApp IO, and you will see there, click on the automation link there in the menu on the top, and it will take you to some of the blogs as well. Scroll down all the way because some blogs are hidden and there's like load more or older blog or something like that. So make sure you scroll down all the way to the bottom of the page.
Yeah, thanks.
I would also recommend going to ansible.com/blogs. We publish all our content there, and you'll find information on new capabilities, new assets that are being deployed with Ansible.